Hello guys and gals, and welcome to another episode of Skills and Abilities. Today we're going to be looking at the assassin ability known as Fists of Fire. Fists of Fire is not really like one of the most amazing ones, and the reason is because, well, you know, there's a lot of fire immunes in Diablo, just freaking tons of fire immunes, right? So in general, when it comes to fire abilities, they tend to be a little lackluster, especially when this one in particular, not only does it dish out fire damage, it also converts your physical damage into fire damage. Depending on what level, at level 33, it will convert all of the physical damage into fire damage, 100%, and dish out that damage as fire instead of physical. Now, when you go out and you actually charge up the ability, it's pretty clear, what it does. The first charge is a flat fire damage that is applied directly to the target, which is 921 to 1013 in this particular case. And of course, this is nowhere near maxed out. I could have it probably like level 49 if I really wanted to. Oh, good lord, booby trap door. That is some booby trapping, booby traps. Get out. Let's go somewhere a little bit more fun, shall we? Now, as you build up the charges, what you're going to notice is that each individual charge is going to give you a effect, which is added to your character screen. The first one, as you can see, is going to give me that 1,000 fire damage. The second one is going to be the fire radius, so it won't actually add anything. And then the third one is the fire damage per second. And then when I finally unleash these charges by using an ability, you see the explosion happens and all of the nice little effects occur. But this is because I have all of them. So with the first charge, you don't see anything because it's just a direct fire damage added to that particular kick. Finisher. The second one is the explosion, and that is the most obvious. But as you can see, the explosion doesn't have any after effects. It doesn't stay. The third one is the actual burn damage that stays on the ground. And that stays on the ground for 2 frames, and it will burn all targets nearby for 2 frames. It's actually some sort of missile attack, and the missiles are kind of random in the direction that they go. So we have 4 things going on here. Number 1 is the fact that it converts all of your physical damage into fire damage. So if you're using this ability, it is going to convert all physical damage into fire. So if you're fighting a monster that's fire immune and you would not like to do 0 damage, I would not use this charge up even as part of another combo, because it will convert your physical damage away, essentially lowering the damage output versus a monster that is immune to fire. The other thing here is that the fire damage, as it is burning, will cause the monsters to not regenerate, which is definitely very nice. And the explosion, which has the nice little 4-yard radius, is going to hit obviously everything within that 4 yards, which is definitely very nice. So we have the 1,000 damage, and then it goes and it explodes that damage outward. And it's also important to note that the fire bonus damage does not apply to the fire damage per second for some reason. So it will apply to the fire damage and the explosive radius, but it will not apply to the actual fire damage per second. Now, as long as you have a charge of any kind, now that they've changed the system, these effects will not miss. So if you have a Fists of Fire ability charged up, you can attack 3 times because it does not burn all the charges anymore. It used to burn all the charges, and now it only burns 1 at a time, which is actually pretty sweet. So if you go over here and you actually kick a target, let me use one of the single attack finishers, like let me grab Dragon Flight, for instance. It will only burn 1 charge at a time. And that means you can use the ability 3 times before it finishes. Now, this also means that you can guarantee 3 hits, just like Smite. So during this time frame, when you have these little charges up, you can 1, 2, and then 3. And it will guarantee at least 3 kicks to land on the target, which is certainly pretty sweet. This is a recent addition that they made to Diablo 2 Resurrected back in one of the patches. They wanted to promote people to utilize the charges more often, and so they gave a specific reason for you to want to have some charges up. And this particular ability only has one synergy, and this synergy is with Phoenix Strike. So if you were going to be using Fist of Fire, you're probably going to have 20 points beefed into Phoenix Strike as well. And then you could utilize any of these finishers, of course, to trigger the ability. When you use them together, it's actually pretty potent, and I feel like we kind of need to at least show you what it looks like when you use both of them at the same time. Now, of course, the fire effect only is increased when you beef up Fist of Fire. So Phoenix Strike has 3 abilities. It has the fire ability, it has the chain lightning, and it has the actual chaos ice bolt. And the meteor, which is the one at the beginning, is the one that you're actually beefing up by beefing up Fists of Fire. And they beef up each other, of course, so the fire damage on Fists of Fire gets beefed up by Phoenix Strike, and the meteor on Phoenix Strike gets beefed up by Fists of Fire, and back and forth. Now, if you were to build all of the charges, it would look something like this. And then, of course, you could drop these on somebody's head. And then you finally get the meteor from the Phoenix Strike. Now, the Phoenix Strike meteor is specific, and you don't necessarily have to build up any more than 1 charge. So if you wanted to only dish out fire damage, you could, of course, build 1 Phoenix Strike, and then you could build a full stack of these, and you could just drop on top of each other like this. And that would, of course, give you a pretty large amount of fire damage. But as you can see here, the Fallen are immune to fire damage, so they don't care that I'm trying to burn them in the flames of hell, because guess what? They're immune to it. Fist of Fire is honestly just one component of a larger cogwheel, which is the Phoenix Strike cogwheel. And it comes in with Claws of Thunder, Blades of Ice, and of course the Phoenix Strike skill itself. And once you add in the fact that you have all of these abilities, or if you focus heavily on one particular element, like for instance you could do fire, you could put on things like Flickering Flame and a Phoenix Shield with negative fire resistance, maybe some fire facets and things like that to beef up the fire to its highest value. You would probably also use martial arts skillers here, as well as martial arts gloves, plus the skill equipment to get that level as high as humanly possible so that the fire damage is as high as you can get it. I probably wouldn't combine this with Dragon Tail, because Dragon Tail works off of the physical damage, and it probably will not combine very well with Fists of Fire. And instead, you're probably better off just going with Dragon Talon or Dragon Flight, so you can teleport around. The teleport kick is honestly just really fun in general, and I think you'll enjoy it. With the new rune word that they have coming out, which I do have a picture of, they have this beautiful rune word called Mosaic, and Mosaic is a new rune word specifically made for charge up abilities. And they may be changing this, so keep that in mind until we take a look at it a little bit more. But I think 2.6 patch notes, when they come out with this, we should have some more finalized data. But as you can see, it has 25% chance for finishing moves to not consume charges. And you can stack 2 of these claws on, so you end up with a 50% chance to not consume charges, which basically means that you can spam the charges over and over and over again, which is actually pretty powerful. So in this particular case with Fists of Fire, if we were to use the Mosaic rune word, you could come out here and you could actually utilize these 3 charges, perhaps 4, 5, 6, sometimes even 7 or 8, 9 or 10 times, depending on what your luck holds. And in my testing, it's not uncommon to actually get 8 or 9 hits of charges out of these. So if you were to build things like the Dragon Talon, which has, can have up to 8 kicks, you can dish out 8 charges within a relatively short period of time. And things like the meteors, you can literally pop out 8 meteors really, really fast. You can obviously throw out 8 fire explosions. Now, the only real downside to Fist of the Fire in this regard is that the average of fire damage per second is actually not going to stack. So fire damage effects don't tend to stack very well. Like, for instance, if you were to put 3 or 4 firewalls underneath of a monster at the same time, they're not all going to burn the monster. He's going to get burned by one firewall, and having a couple of them overlapped underneath of him will make sure that he continues to burn, but he won't burn any faster because you have multiple firewalls under him. So having multiple fire effects underneath of a monster doesn't necessarily give you more damage. The other thing that we have to talk about is next hit delay. So if you guys have never explored next hit delay is a very important mechanic when it comes to Diablo. And essentially how it works is when you hit a monster, there is a very specific amount of time that you are required to not hit that target again within that same ability. And certain assassin abilities do have some issues when it comes to next hit delay. Most notably is Claws of Thunder and Phoenix Strike, as well as we were talking about earlier, the fire effects can't hit the same target at the same time multiple times in a row. So you will have some overlap here. The explosion will hit the target. The fire damage will hit the multiple targets multiple times within a very short period of time. But for the most part, especially when it comes to things like the burn damage, you're not going to get as much overlap as you probably would like with Fists of Fire. That's pretty much it for this ability. It's a very simple ability. It has an explosion. It does very nice early game. The mana cost, as you can see, is 2 right now. And let's go ahead and reset this real quick. And as you can see, it stays at 2. These charge-up abilities don't have much change when it comes to stuff like this. So it's unfortunate, but it's just how it is. Now, when it comes to building a full Phoenix Strike Assassin, if that's what you're going for, it does require a really hefty investment. A full Phoenix Strike Assassin is 20, 40, 60, 80, 81, 82. It's literally 82 skill points there, and you don't really have a lot left over for anything else. I mean, you're talking about 105 skill points at level 95, and I mean, you've got enough left over to build one finisher and put a couple points into your shadow disciplines, and that's about it. You're probably not going to have enough points to go down to Death Sentry, so you're probably going to want to find that on your claw. So there's interesting ways that you can build a Fist of Fire Assassin. You can obviously do it directly, which is just Fist of Fire and Phoenix Strike, or you can build the entire Monty. Anyway, as always, I do appreciate you guys and gals watching my videos, and as always, keep watching.